What's up, guys and gals? We are going live here. I got myself and Teddy,
What's
the
up, guys?
man behind the camera,
How we doing?
creative director.
Yes, sir. We're about to film some reels. All the awesome content you guys see on Dan's Instagram is going to be filmed now. We got this little setup.
Yeah, let's check it out. We got the
Camera here, Sony A7 IV.
Flip this.
Super simple setup.
We got the Sony.
Yeah. You don't need
And,
anything crazy, guys.
that's
I just
really
got a light here to make it look
That's it.
little box light.
Yep, that's it. This is how we do it right here. You know, it's funny. A lot of people think making all this content all the time. You know, my full-time life is running Voda. We do this once a month. Yeah, give or take 4 hours once a month, and that's it. We change shirts. We're gonna show you the whole thing. We're gonna give you the whole
He's on
playbook.
the second blazer now.
Second blazer. All right, let's do it.
You guys will get a live view of the content. All right. So go ahead.
Yeah, and if you're a business owner, like I'm going to show you the exact framework that we use. And, you know, I also want to share some lessons. So a couple things. One, we're learning how to do this. This is a learning experience. Stupid thing we learned, we did some some tests, and we noticed that this Christmas tree behind me with the flashing lights has been helping with getting the reels to get traction. And I think it's kind of funny because that tree, we got it way too early and it's already kind of dying. It's a live tree. So I don't know what we're gonna do by Christmas. But anyway, we're learning that in the background has been helping with the reels when we track the A/B testing online. And what we've also learned is these live streams have been working really well. So anyway, if you have the time at 1:30 to watch this, I don't know what you're doing. You should have better hobbies, but let's do it.
All right, let's go to our next question, Dan. So, why do most owners wait too long to build systems?
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do this. So Teddy comes up with questions as our creative director before. We plan them ahead of time. And then what we do is he'll ask me that, and then I have to come up with an answer. So the question was, what was it again?
Why do most owners wait too long to build systems?
Okay, so the question was, why do most owners wait too long to build systems as a franchise owner? And so how we construct this is the first thing we do is we think of a hook. Then we think of a story, and then we think of an offer. And so this framework kind of works a little bit like this. The question again was, why do most business owners wait too long to set up systems? The hook, I'm going to make it up now. When you, hang on. They set up the systems before. Hang on. They set up the systems, it was already too late. So many business owners set up systems and then they fail because they waited too long. And so just to go back real quick, not my best hook, but the idea is you want to start with something that hooks people in. And in this case, something negative, right? So again, it would be they set up systems before it was too late, or they set up systems and it was already too late. And then you go into the story. So doing it again, hook, they set up systems and it was already too late. It's very difficult to get out of not setting up systems in your business before things get busy. The key to setting up systems in your business as a franchise owner is to do them before you need the systems. I think a lot about running a business is similar to like surfing. Teddy loves to surf. I like surfing. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. If I were to go out in the summer and I'm waiting for the perfect wave, right? What I need to do is I need to make sure that I get ahead of the wave before it crushes me. I think running a business is a lot like that. You have to have a system that's there before the crush of busyness hits you. And so many business owners, they start setting up systems when it's already too late. They're panicking. They're in the day-to-day. The phones are ringing off the hook. So you have to be able to hire and set up systems ahead of the curve. So how do you do that? Well, if you're part of the right franchise system, they should have the playbooks based on the point in ramp that you're at. So if you're, 6 months into business and you're at this revenue goal, right, then there's different systems that the franchisor, when it's done the right way, has for you to follow at that point. Okay, you're at this revenue and this size and this time. Here's our next playbook on what you need to do between now and month 9, because here's what's coming up the pipe. When you're a regular business owner, you got to figure it out. As a franchise owner, you have these systems, at least when you're part of a good franchise, right away. And what I like to remind people about franchises is a franchise takes out the guesswork. It doesn't take out the work. You still have to do the work, but there should be a playbook that sets up the systems beforehand.
Beautiful.
Let's do another.
It's a beautiful reel. Love it. Okay, so our next question is going to be, what happens when the owner is the only one who knows how things work?
The most selfish thing you could do is build a business where no one else can run it without you. So what do I mean by that? So again, hook, story, offer. So the last one I actually didn't do a story. This one I'm going to do a story. The most selfish thing that you can do is run a business that no one else is able to run if you're no longer with us on earth. And what do I mean by that? When I first started out as a business broker in 2014, I met this amazing, amazing man who had built an amazing business. He was in his 70s and the business was very successful. What was a little bit scary was he had no systems. He had no succession plan. He had no will. He had nothing. He thought he was going to live forever, or he was procrastinating, afraid to put the systems in place. So he contacted me. We started doing a business evaluation. We started putting the plan together. And he had a son that he wanted to potentially take over the business, but he had no playbooks and he had no systems. What's scary is he ended up getting into an accident. He didn't pass away, but he didn't have those systems. And I remember having this realization together. It was a realization for me as well. It wasn't anything crazy. He survived. He was like a near death kind of thing, but not even hurt, but like an almost car accident. And the realization was, oh my God, the most selfish thing I could ever do is not have these systems, not have these playbooks. And so what he did was he started to do what I call, and many call, the camcorder method. So how does it work? So Teddy's here with the camcorder, with camera. What you want to do is you don't want to just write down your playbooks and your standard operating procedures. You do want to do that. Everything as a business owner that's in your head, you need to get out onto paper. But how many people are really going to read your playbooks? So what you got to do is the camcorder method. You record the why and how you do everything, and you put it into one giant document. So I'll give you an example. You could go on Zoom and literally a party of one, just you and yourself, hit the record button, pull up a screen share and show how you do a certain thing. This is how I pay invoices. This is how I, send these types of emails. This is how I do X, Y, Z. And you put that into one giant video library. How to send invoices. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. Screen shares, videos, and a document. It doesn't have to be crazy. Another way is if you already have people working for you that are all doing different things, create a living document called your operations manual. Google Docs, Live Doc, share it to everyone on your team and say, from here on out, every time you do something, I need you to record how you do it on a camera, the way I just said on Zoom, and put it there. And over time, you can build an operations manual with your team building it together. That's editable that they can add to.
Wow. I mean, that hook is awesome. The most selfish thing you could do is build a business that can't be run without you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good. And then you got the story, and then you got
right.
Now in theory, you're supposed to have an offer. We don't have an offer. The offer would be to attend our training or webinar or whatever. So if you're making content, hook, story, offer, all the time, same framework. I'm going to teach you a different framework called Hero's Journey Framework. So that one I need a little help with though. So let's go over this, how you do it when you're making content. Teddy, can you give me another one?
Yeah. Let's do, how do systems create freedom in a 24/7 emergency business like restoration?
How do systems create freedom?
In a 24/7 restoration emergency service business.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you guys something really cool. Okay. All right, so the question from Teddy was, how does systems create freedom in a business like an emergency service business? But I'm going to kind of take that a little bit broader and say, how does systems and discipline create freedom in your life as a business owner? So let's do that. So remember, framework, hook, story, offer. right? Hook, story, offer. So how do you do hook, story, offer? We're going to go through it. Just give me a second.
And then maybe do the offer on this one. Invite them to the webinar.
Okay. So how it works is hook, story, offer, and then we're going to do a story using Joseph Campbell's or hero's journey framework. Again, everything you do in content should be based off of frameworks. So what is that, first of all? So anytime you watch a Disney movie or you watch really any good movie, any good story, anything you read, the Bible is a great example of like the greatest story ever told, right? But at the end of the day, it's the same framework and everything is the same framework when you create this, which is basically, you think of a movie, it's like there's 12 steps. So step one is the ordinary world. You introduce someone to the hero's journey, right? You introduce the hero's normal life before the adventure. So like, think of like a movie where there's like a guy and he's poor and he's going to work and his work's terrible and he knows he's meant for more and he gets bullied and he's on the way on the subway and the subway, conductor's not nice and the life is just tough. And maybe they get out of the subway and there's a scene where they keep thinking of this business idea that's in their mind, right? Like they have this idea to, create some type of business that could change the world, right? And that's step number two is like while they're living in their ordinary world, something disrupts their normal life and invites them to act. So for example, they go up to that job and the boss like fires them right there on the spot. And they get fired and they refuse the call. So even though this is the perfect opportunity to go and start that business, they go, no way. And they crawl up in a ball and they watch TV at their house. And all of a sudden they're, get evicted, right? Let's think of like Pursuit of Happiness, right? He's got down on his luck. All this stuff happens. They get evicted. And now they're sleeping in a bathroom, right? With the sun. Like if you think of Pursuit of Happiness. And maybe in that bathroom or whatever, they meet someone that is, was in the same boat. Maybe it's an old man. It's Yoda, right? In Star Wars. Or it's, really any movie you think of that there's this guide. And the main character I just talked about is the hero. But there's a guide that tells them like how to do what they need to do. So they meet this mentor, someone that they meet who prepares or guides them. And number 5, they cross the threshold. So the hero leaves the ordinary world and enters the unknown, right? So they jump into this new idea. And then number 6, they go through tests, allies, and enemies. So like as they're building the business, or in the case of, let's use Pursuit of Happiness, for example, he gets the internship and he's doing it, but it's unpaid and he's got to take care of his son. They're going to get evicted and they got to make money and they got to feed, but he's got to show up to work and not look like he's homeless, right? All these things and these trials and tribulations. And then number 7, in any story, is the approach to the innermost cave. This is the biggest challenge, right? If you remember in the Pursuit of Happiness, like the biggest challenge, like he's out of a house and he's out of money and he's out of everything and he's crying with his son and he's just miserable and he wants to give up, but he can't, right? And then finally there's 8, the ordeal, right? And the ordeal is the hero faces their most difficult test yet. Well, actually, I was just kind of talking about that. And then they overcome it, right? And there's a reward. They gain something valuable, knowledge, power, something. And then as the story wraps up, there's a return. There's a roadblock. Even though they finally got to this point, the hero begins the journey home and there's a resurrection. A final ordeal happens. And another problem happens, but they overcome it. And then finally return with the elixir, which the hero returns, transformed, offering, sharing, a new story. Think of Pursuit of Happiness. There's that scene where he almost doesn't get the job and then he does, right? And they give him the job and then he's, with his son and then they're at a game and like it almost goes south again. And then he's obviously successful. He's in the box with the, at the game with whoever he's with. So the point is that every story follows this framework. So if you're making content, you follow this framework. Hook, story, offer, you tell a story like that. So I'll give you an example. The question was, we're going to take this all back to Teddy's question. How do you build systems, or how does building systems and freedom create, how does building systems and discipline create freedom? So hook, right? The hook could be, James Clear's Atomic Habits. So you'd say something like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. What do I mean by that? And now you're going to go into the story. Okay. When I was younger, I used to believe that I could succeed by outworking everyone. I didn't have any systems. I didn't really have any discipline. Every morning, I would wake up and I would do whatever I thought I should do every single morning. And I would change it up and I would do what I felt like, not what I had to do. But when I say had to do, how would I know what I had to do when it wasn't designed for me? And as I got older and I started to realize that like there's this power to routine, I would start to build my own kind of routine, and then I'd get bored and I'd go back to making up my own way of doing things. And fast forward years and years later, I met a friend who's a mentor, a business partner, which is Dragon, the founder of Voda. And one of the things he said to me, he said, discipline creates freedom. It feels like the opposite, right? Like, what do you mean discipline creates freedom? That sounds like not fun. And as I've gotten older, I realize he's right. And I'll give you an example. Dragon starts his day every day the same way. Wakes up at 5:30, which, by the way, he starts his day at 5:30 by first starting his night the same way. Just go to bed at the same time most nights. He goes to bed at a certain time, wakes up 5:30. 5:30 sounds early until you just realize she's got to go to bed a little bit earlier. I personally also get up at 5:30, and this has been the case now for a while because I've learned that that's the perfect time for me. It's not too early to go to bed. I don't have a life, but it's not too late. I can have enough hours of sleep. 5:30 for me gives me a half hour to do some quick work and brush my teeth, get ready, have some water. I go to the gym at 6, finish at like 7:15. Sometimes I squeeze in the sauna or have breakfast or whatever and get to work. I like to be there at the office usually at 8:30. Anyway, the point is there's a routine and there's a discipline. So I meet Dragon who teaches me this. He starts his day very similar. There's a very similar on the calendar. Drink water at this time. Read this at this time. Do this at this time. Admin at this time. Get to the office 7:30. Do a meeting at 8. But guess what? Because he does all these things, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, he's free. He did more in the morning than most people do all day, and now he's free. Discipline actually creates freedom, right? And so what I've learned is that it's a lot easier to be disciplined for a few hours to then have the rest of the day free than to just kind of do whatever you want and then end up not being free. You end up being more productive, happier, and there's this consistency to your life. So that would be an example of not necessarily the greatest story, not that exciting, not pursuit of happiness, but the point of the framework is hook, story, offer. And now so you'd say, if you'd like to learn lessons like this and many more, join our free webinar that's coming up on business ownership. I don't know, whatever the call to action is. But the point is hook, story, offer.
Yep.
Good.
Love it.
Want to do one more? I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's on here. I mean, who would be on here? Like, let me sit on a live stream. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of this. That's funny.